diabolical destruction grips Hot Wheels City in terror. Who is responsible?
I'll tell you who's responsible. Me! Why? Because I'm evil!
Start your engines! Passes on the outside! Who got another position?
My little cobras will wreak havoc all over the city.
New track! Track multi-ball! Red Line Mania! Look Crash Multi-Ball!
That was totally epic!
You may have defeated my creatures, but you'll never defeat me!
So first I want to just introduce Mr. Josh Kugler. Josh Kugler is a codemaster and he has worked with a team with other people, of course, on Houdini, Oktoberfest, Hot Wheels. And before that, if I'm not mistaken, he was a collector and he made a game at his house, a homebrew game. So welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me.
So Josh, the first question. We're gonna talk. It's an informal talk, so feel free to stop me at any time. So tell us, how was the change from being a collector for doing your machine to your home, and then for actually joining American Pinball since the beginning? I'm not sure if it was since the beginning, but right after they started. So how was that journey to you?
Well, going from being a collector and then somebody who's building games to doing it for a living, that's a pretty big change. And your whole view of pinball changes as a result. So, because, you used to do it just for fun, now it's for work. Most of the time I play pinball, it's working on our machines versus playing other stuff. So that was a big change, for me.
So Josh, what machines are you working right now? I probably don't have time to play the Lord of the Rings that you have at your house. You just mentioned that you didn't have time to set up the Oktoberfest, the last one from the line. So what are you working from right now?
Well, my focus is still very much on Hot Wheels. We've started shipping games. We've done our first code update. We're working on another one now. And then there's a few more things we want to get in. So we're really trying to wrap that up. I'm actually really, really happy where we're at with it. And then I'm actually going to carve out some time to do some work on Houdini. There's some improvements I want to make there. So that'll be next. And at some point, the Oktoberfest, which is folded up in a corner, I'll get that set up. But I think, Joe Schober, after we've wrapped up some Hot Wheels stuff, I think Joe will probably do some more work on Oktoberfest while I'm doing some work on Houdini. So we'll have some updates on that, probably in the fall.
Okay. So what's coming new on Houdini and maybe later on Oktoberfest?
Well, mostly it's, adding some additional polish or things I'm just not happy with. Any bugs that have been identified. There's some of the things we did on Hot Wheels we'll look to improve just from a system standpoint or code updating. There's just a variety of things I'd like to give attention to it. Just things that either I wasn't happy with or that we're finding. And, might squeeze in a few new things.
How close are we to Hot Wheels being done?
It's hard to say. We have in there almost everything that we kind of had in the original plans, but there's some other things we'd like to do. And so I don't think we're done with it yet. There's a chance we could do, we'll see how long the sales cycle runs on it. But, there's some other stuff I'd like to get into the game if we could. pretty happy with it's in there now. It's pretty loaded. But I don't know if I'll ever be done with any of the games completely, just because there's always some new idea that comes up, and if you get suggestions all the time. So we'll see.
Houdini, I heard some Master Magician mode. Is there a shortcut to that?
Yes, there is.
Shareable? Not shareable? Is it a mystery that needs to be?
What I'd say is there's a clue for those running the beta code. So there's a clue, and the people who are currently running the beta code have seen, and that in that next release. So it's been there forever, but there is now going to be a clue in the next release to help people find it. And it does this let you jump to the Master Magician mode. It's basically there for when I was doing testing, and I left it in as a way for people to eventually get to it. Just nobody's found it yet, and but like I said, some people have the first clue, and we'll get that out with the next release, and then necessarily I'll get some more clues out there. But it's right in front of people's eyes if they're on the beta code.
This question actually comes from a person that does own a Oktoberfest and does own a Houdini. And his question, and he's a programmer. So his question is, how do I do, and how someone can actually start programming a pinball machine? How did you do that, and how can someone do that too?
It's a great question. I first started by retheming an electromechanical game. That was the first thing I did, just to try my hand at doing something custom. And then I learned about the PROC system. And what makes the PROC system very powerful to create your own game is the PROC handles the real-time nature of flips and slingshots and pops reacting when you hit the flippers. And that lets you program in easier to program languages and easier to develop the game without a lot of fancy tools.
Next question. A próxima pergunta.
So let me just to finish up on that one. So, so that lets you program in. I have to use a language called Python. You can use other languages, but there's also a great community of custom game builders out there who are there to help each other and support each other. There's software frameworks to help you get started. It does take a lot of skill. I mean, to build a complete custom pinball machine, it's not just the software piece, but you have to, design play fields and have the skills to construct, and the electrical skills and the electronic skills. But a lot of guys find a group of guys to do it with, where different people have those skills to create their own custom game.
Okay. So that's this last question from the same guy. His question was actually, have you ever thought about a kind of an open source? So, for example, he can play with his Houdini and learn how to change the code and do the things himself, as a way to actually make people that want to do their own machine start doing that? Or is it too dangerous, too crazy?
Well, there are the frameworks that are out there are open source, and there are some sample games available, and guys in that community will share their game code to help other people get started. As far as us kind of opening up the code, there's a lot of liabilities and other issues that would go along with that, which would really keep us from doing it. And certainly on a licensed game, that would be very problematic to do. But for people looking to learn, there are definitely resources out there, people willing to share their code. Spooky games and our games have their roots in something called Skeleton Game, which is an open source framework that will help you get a game flipping very, very quickly. Now, making great rules and making the game do all sorts of cool things, that's going to take.
But I'll ask, how do you see this comeback from pinball industry, and what to expect in the next few years? Is it pinball still going strong?
Well, I think you have two factors. You have just what pinball would be doing in general, and then obviously we have the COVID-19 situation. I'm surprised how location pinball in some locations is already starting to come back. And places are doing it. I think they're separating machines very far. They're doing some of those things. It's going to depend on people's comfort level. I think the whole market will grow a little bit as people decide that they want to have games. They want to have that environment where it's safe and can play. So I think it'll be a bump in the road here a little bit as everybody's figuring this out, but I don't think it'll have a long-term negative effect on pinball. I think it'll create a little bit of a shift in how people approach it and how people play. But I think people are antsy to get back out there and play.
To this, let's talk a little bit about the new factory, and then I'll switch to this. So
That's the old place.
yeah, I'm gonna just show the picture. You'll say what it is, and then I'll translate, and then we go from there.
So this is the old factory. That was the final test area, it looks like. As you can see, things were very, very cramped in that factory. You can see here all these games, and every day they'd have to move games in and out to get to the stuff that was in the back. So this is now the new factory. Before we moved in, this was kind of an open house around the holidays to kind of show it off. And this is right before we actually started to bring stuff into it. The building is owned by our parent company. There was a previous occupant in the building, and it took us a long time to get them out. And then we pretty much had to gut the place and redo the floors, which you can see here is actually when the floors are still in the process of being redone. So the entire place had to be gutted. The floors had to be redone, painted. It took much, much longer than we anticipated to be able to convert the space to be usable.
CG.
So this is the new line, and they're still really fine-tuning and working through things to get it the way we want. So that's probably looks like about halfway through the line. That's clearly Hot Wheels on there. So there are, I think, about 11 workstations on the line, and they're partially designed now, obviously, to keep people spaced out. And that looks just fairly far along into towards the end of the line, where that game looks like it's almost done.
So here's probably a little bit earlier in
addition to the line.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So in addition to the line, there's also sub-assembly workstations, like what you saw there, where the various mechanisms are put together and configured before they get installed on the line. Right. So yeah. So in this case, we do almost any soldering that's done is typically done at a substation assembly, not on the machine. For the little bit of soldering that gets done, which is typically for switches. So those harnesses will get made there and then just dropped into the game so that we're not soldering on the line. Yeah, so you can see there on the left, that's a final test workstation. There, where there's a complete setup where they're able to hook up to the computer and stuff, and that's where the first time somebody goes through the game, checks all the lights, checks all the switches, make sure all those things are correct, adjusts the gapping on things. Then after that, it goes to final test, which is that next picture. And that's Joe Balser, the designer of Hot Wheels and Houdini and Oktoberfest. And Joe is spending a few weeks in final test, going over every game himself when it's done to make sure that everything is just the way he wants it.
There's a bunch of machines that he did that I just love.
Pinball Party, Baywatch, South Park, Apollo 13.
Baywatch.
Right, so these are games, looks like where the cabinets and the playfield finally come together. Cabinets get built completely separately, part of the factory. And then they all come together, and that's when they then go into final test and burn it.
So the cabinets is made outside the factory and then it comes in. Is that right? Did I get it right?
Yeah, we don't make our own cabinets. So the cabinets come in. We put the decals on, and then all the internals to the cabinet, all the wiring, the hardware, all of that we do. So the cabinet comes in two pieces, just the empty shell.
Oh.
So those were the very first games built. As you can see, that was actually the old factory. So the first, we started building there. Then the COVID crisis came. And so when we came out of the crisis and we were able to resume production, we had moved to the new facility. So we actually moved kind of during this transition.
Josh, COVID. How's the factory right now? How is it still affecting you? Are you up to speed? How many? I'm not sure, I can't ask how many games have you sold, but I heard that someone orders Oktoberfest is going to take a little bit to actually get it.
My guess right now, and it really depends on your distributor and how much they've ordered in anticipation. If you ordered right now, it's probably 4 weeks out, would be my guess right now, based on the sales volume, which has been pretty strong. and the current rate the factory is going, they're going to get faster every day as they get comfortable with this game. So each day, I think they're making a little bit more than the day before. So it took a little while to get the factory up and running because of the move. We have a lot of new people. So it's taking a little bit, but now they finally found their rhythm. We're starting to see the games rolling off the line as you saw in some of those photos.
Okay. Regarding quality, that's anything has improved on the new factory regarding quality on the way you produce the machines. Someone asked here, Mauro, that owns Oktoberfest and Houdini, regarding the quality on of the printing on the play field. Has that improved since Houdini?
Well, I think it's pretty similar. I think the difference is, the type of art and the style of art looks different on this game than Houdini and Oktoberfest because of the colors, the style of the art, the kind of the way the detail is done, the shading. I have to think all three playfields look really good. Houdini still might be my favorite. Maybe it's this one. I mean, the brightness and the colors of this, I think are really vibrant, and it really makes you kind of smile when you play, and I like that.
Question. So I think it's a compliment at the beginning. So American Paper started 3 years ago. So you did Houdini, a non-licensed thing in record time, 6 to 7 months from scratch to delivering the machine. And then you did Oktoberfest, a packet machine with everything but not licensed. And now you're bringing to the market a new value, a new proposition, which is making a licensed machine with a good flow, still compared to the pros with a lot of things, but not as premium as the other ones. So now that you have done all that, I mean, premium on license, license on a better deal, on a better value. And now that you have a factor that can probably, that's one of the questions, is that the factor can actually do more than one machine at the same time. And then, is there any possibility of actually having a Hot Wheels collector edition or moving to having a machine focus on the value market and then a machine focus on the premium market? How are you guys, now that you have done everything, how's that working for you?
Well, I think we're going to continue to try different things over time, but we very much like the single model approach in the marketplace. We think that works. I'm not going to say we're going to do that forever. Right. And I'm not going to say that there's not going to be some potential collector edition of Hot Wheels at some point. It's certainly something we occasionally talk about. If the right situation comes along, we might do that. The key is making sure we're not sacrificing gameplay. So I'm in favor of a deluxe edition that has more bling to it. Some of this stuff that some people value, but that drives the price up. And that's how I'd like to see it done. So you're still getting the same game at the price point, but if magic glass and nicer side rails and nicer powder coat and some of those types of things are things that are valuable to you and you value, then I'd like to be able to do that. But I also want us to try to keep it as affordable as we can.
So that's a tricky question, but I made the same question when I talked to Jack Guarnieri. So I'm being fair. Let's say that. And then you relate the machines that I asked. So how is the uptake of the launch of a non-licensed machine like Oktoberfest, which is packed, which is fun, but it's a non-licensed, compared to a licensed machine that's not so packed, but has the value, has the flow, has everything? How's the launch curve doing comparing those two? Well,
we're very happy with the uptake on Hot Wheels out of the gate. And I think there's a couple of factors in that. Certainly, it's Hot Wheels. They make 10 million cars a week. It is celebrated all around the world. They've been in business for 50 years. It's hard to find somebody who doesn't like Hot Wheels. Maybe they don't love it, but nobody has a dislike for Hot Wheels. I think it's a very, very popular theme. It's a very fun theme. So I think that's a big factor. Secondly, we announced the game pretty much when it was available to start to purchase. So that's a big difference from previous games where there was kind of a delay before you could purchase the game. I think that's a factor. I think on this game too, we really try to, and it's been our goal in all the games, to find that balance between what's great for the serious player, the enthusiast, and the novice. But I think on this game, we kind of set up another relative to that, not really across the board on all of those, with both entertainment value in the game, trying to get more wow moments, and also really focusing on some of the aspects of the rules to really make sure that for the A players, there's challenges there, and the game doesn't have that thing that sort of everybody gravitates to really get that scoring balance. So I think all of those things are helping with the excitement of the game and will help with its long-term sales.
Josh, I think during COVID times, if, for example, if you have to take Oktoberfest to shows and to show people so they can feel what Oktoberfest is, and then they can play the machine, the uptake's probably going to be really, I wouldn't say really slow compared to a theme machine, but Hot Wheels, everybody knows what it is, everybody wants, so you do not have to explain a lot and take the machine to shows. So, because the previous model, you have to take all the machines to show, and that was the question that I made to Jack Guarnieri, and regarding to Dialed In, he said it took some time because he had to go with the machine to every place and show what it was really about, that the theme was not just about the phone, and then it took some time for people to actually start and understanding and enjoying. And when you do a theme, you just kind of skip that. So I think he mentioned the number of pre-orders that he got from a theme. It was much higher than Dialed In within, I don't remember exactly the time, but a few months.
Well, there's no doubt a known theme immediately registers with people, and there's no explanation. I'm going to make fun of Joe Balser for a minute. There was a theme Joe wanted to do, and he came in and he started reading the Wikipedia page to explain it to us. I'm like, Joe, if we need to read the Wikipedia to understand what the game's about, that's probably not a good choice.
Poker Run.
And we shifted gears on that. So
I would say Poker Run.
That's pretty cool, but Poker Run. So there you go. So so theme is really important in that regard. It's the first thing people react to. But the reality is, how good a game is you don't know that until you get some time on it and you play it and you flip it, and that's the most important thing about pinball to me, that sometimes gets lost in the internet age, as people start judging a game, based on based on the theme or basing some images. And not that all those things aren't part of looking at a game, but it's about once you experience the game and learn the game, then you can really say, wow, this is a great game. But no doubt a theme like Oktoberfest, for a lot of people, that does nothing for me. And there are themes that I look at that are like that. I think Dialed In was an example of people having, again, to get past the theme, to start learning about the game, to decide whether or not they like the game and whether or not it's right for them. So we all need to stop the quick judgment on a game until you've really gotten a chance to play it. I like to put, if I haven't put $20 into the game, I haven't played nearly enough yet to, know if it's a good game or not.
So the last question regarding the factory is, since you have more capability and more and speed, now that you have learned how to work with a licensed theme, you have to and a value machine. Now that you prove that you can work on both worlds, and you did Rudin in a record time. So what should we expect from American Pinball between launching machines from now on?
Well, I think you'll see us probably do a mix of licensed and unlicensed themes going forward. There's pros and cons to each. Like we talked about, a licensed theme, people know what it is. Mm-hmm. But there's additional costs with the licensed theme, and it can take a little bit longer because of the process you have to work through. So I think you'll see us do both of those. I think the frequency of the games will come out. It'll be based on the success of the games that we're doing in the marketplace and when we think a game is ready. So obviously, we've now done 3 games in a little over 4 years. which I think for a startup is pretty
good.
amazing.
It's amazing.
That we've done that, and each game I think has gotten better and better. So I think you'll see that trend continue.
Hot Wheels, and then people reaction to Hot Wheels.
So, well, there are a lot of themes we looked at, and there were a couple we explored. We got with Roger Sharp, who's sort of the licensing guru, and talked about some things that were going on. And, we wanted to do, one of our goals for this game was to, we wanted the layout to be different than the last game, just like we wanted Oktoberfest to be different than Houdini. So we knew this time we wanted a game that was going to be a fast, flowy game. So that led us towards looking at themes that would work well with that kind of speed. And that was one of the things that led us to Hot Wheels. And as it turned out, they were really excited about the idea of having a pinball machine. So one of the nice things working with Mattel.
That's one of the questions.
You there? Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. It's one of the questions.
Okay. So, one of the things interesting about working with Mattel is these are people who spend their day with toys. So they're a lot like us. They're kids at heart. So they were really excited about it. And they were truly great to work with. The people we work with there just bent over backwards to get us the things we were looking for, whether it was, pictures of cars or the footage or whatever it was. Really responsive, really great to work with. It was easier than I thought it would be.
Did you have to approve everything with Mattel? Yeah, he
yes,
said his wife works for Mattel.
Yes, everything we do, we run through Mattel. So when we develop this script, they review all of the voice calls that we're going to use in the game. All of the animations we do, we run past them. So anything visual or audio in the game, they review. We explain what the rules of the game are. And, they got to see way too much game footage of me playing the game here in my house just to share with them the rules and the evolution of the animations. But they were incredibly quick in responding and giving feedback. Usually we'd send some stuff, and within a day or two, we'd get back whatever notes they had or thoughts, whether it was questions about things, or occasionally they give us some different lines that we could add to the script. So we did go through approvals, but it was really very rare that they had an issue with anything we were doing. Often it was just to make sure we had all the spellings correctly and things like that. But we understood what Hot Wheels is all about. So we understood the brand and the messaging and, how to capture Hot Wheels spirit into a pinball machine.
Yuri just mentioned that his wife, and she works for Mattel here in Brazil, she said that they were very impressed about the machine here in Brazil. The Mattel,
hopefully
the Brazilian team,
one.
Yes.
They should get one for their office.
We should, and we should work something together because we need those 3 million, 4 million followers from Mattel. From Hot Wheels.
Well, we actually haven't even really started to promote the game yet into the Hot Wheel collector community. We'll start to do that soon. Partially because we know the pinball people, we want to give them first crack at the game, but we know that there'll be a lot of excitement among Hot Wheels collectors. Hot Wheels collectors are just as crazy, if not more crazy, than pinball collectors.
Yeah. I'll show that in a second. So the question was, are you going to start promoting with Mattel? If so, maybe we can do the same in Brazil.
There are plans to start doing that. Not surprisingly, Mattel, which is a massively big company with, as you know, offices all around the world, they are still very much like all of us working through COVID and getting back up to business and back up and running. We actually exchanged a few emails with them today. Where it's clear, like, okay, now let's start talking about these things. So, like everybody, there's a little bit of a slow ramp up back to work. Right. But right now, that's good with me because I'm glad we can focus on the pinball community. But you'll start to see us get pretty active, more so in the Hot Wheels community in the not too distant future.
Okay.
And work with Mattel on promoting the game.
So the question is quite easy. So what are the main differences of Hot Wheels in terms of what you deliver on the very competitive pro/operators market? So what are the main features that Hot Wheels delivers to, I would say, both operators and also collectors? Because some collectors, I saw the pictures, a lot of people are adding Hot Wheels to their collections, and then I have a few pictures here.
The one of our goals with this game was to make a game that would be operator friendly and enthusiast friendly, and part of that, in both cases, people want a game that's going to be reliable and easy to service. So that was a critical function with things, limiting things that can go bump in the night that can break. So those are key components that everybody wants, and we were focused on the game. And part of the pricing of our games is a little bit based on what's in the game and how we approach it and what's involved. So as you see, each of our games has been priced differently, kind of based on the game. But certainly our goal here on this game was to have a game at a lower price point, to make it more affordable both for operators and for owners. But I don't think we really cut corners, in the sense we were really pretty much able to do the things we wanted to do, to bring the theme to life, the brights, the colors, the speed. And a lot of people who've played the game and have played our others, that they feel it's our best game. And I haven't decided yet. It's my favorite game because it's the game I'm working on right now, and I'm really enjoying it. Time will tell if I think it's our best game. But we really have managed to pack a lot in. And the funny thing is, early on we said, well, let's not make the rules too complicated. Well, the rules over time became very wide and very deep, but we were really able to keep the simplicity of the game when you first step up to it. Now, when you first step up, it's very easy to know what to do and what to go after, but the layers and the nuance to how you approach the game and all the things to do in the game take quite a while to figure out.
Oh,
Yeah,
first
so,
one.
what you see here is front and center are the RPM targets. And hitting those targets and completing them advances the tachometer, which is at front and center right between the flippers. And the tachometer is what determines the value of all of the shots in the game.
Like a multiplier.
The higher the tachometer, the higher the scoring. The best way to move the tack is the RPM targets.
So it's kind of a multiplier, but not fix it, because it's related to how many shots you make to the RPM. So
right, so the tack goes up, and then it'll slowly start to come back down, and then you need to shoot it to get it to go back up again. So it's always sort of moving, so you can't ignore it for too long, or it gets really low and your scoring will be very low.
Então, but there was a lot of pushback regarding the spinning car at the beginning. Not sure if people did not understand. Not sure if it's because that in New Orleans we all got those mobile phones videos, and then internet, what happens when one starts speaking and just blows up in a second. So how the RPMs interactive with the car spinning, how did you improve that? And if you heard the feedback from people at the first time they look at the car?
Well, we always listen to feedback all the time on things, and sometimes it's helpful and valuable, and sometimes it's not. But we listen to things and then we kind of judge it. Obviously at that point we were still fine tuning things, so the car wasn't behaving necessarily how we intended it completely. So we have made a lot of changes to it. So it's a little more subtle and a little more obvious when it's used. I think the other factor is when you look at, depending on the angle of the camera, it makes it look like it's really blocking your view when it's really not when you're playing. I think most people who've been playing the game, if you ask them, will tell you they don't either notice the car or it's not an issue at all. Sort of like the display being offset.
Yeah.
It's basically, you talk to people who played the game and they don't even realize it was. They completely forget about it. It's really a non-issue. When you actually play the game, it's like you don't even think about it. You look up and it's right there. It's kind of funny how certain things, the internet can get crazy about that, are non-issues. But we did change the spinning car to just be used a little bit less, and a little more importantly, to signal the player as to what's going on with the RPM. The car stops spinning, your RPM's getting low, you should hit it. So it's sort of tiered, and then occasionally we make it go really fast.
Oh, just some colors. Someone asked if the cars are the cars that came, the Hot Wheels cars that are inside the machines, are all the same, or are you gonna changing from machine to machine?
The most of them will get the same cars, at least through the first couple of hundred, and the spinning car on the in the middle, which is a Bone Crusher, that'll be standard on all of the cars, all of the games. Assuming we can keep getting Bone Crushers, we have I think about 700 or 800 of them already. So that could always be the same car there. It's possible the others will vary. But the reality is, I would probably guess that 50% of the owners of the games have already changed out at least some of the cars for their own personal favorites.
O que que é essa rampa aí? What's that? Is that a VUC or half a loop?
It is a buck that then feeds into a loop that feeds the ramp. That's what we call the track builder. So there's a drop target in front of that, and that's one of the primary focuses of the game is track multi-ball, which you get by knocking that target, then ultimately shooting a ball in there to lock it. Another ball gets put into play. You get a chance to potentially get a third lock. And that's a very lucrative, it's a very easy multi-ball to get to. It's only 4 shots away from the start button. So something to get to, it's pretty easy to start. But it actually can be incredibly valuable if you kind of build up the jackpot ahead of time.
Okay. This is just the orange. There's a targets battle. What is that about?
So in Hot Wheels, there are lots of different activities.
Tô perguntando sobre a batalha ali. Os targets que estão ali.
There's track building, there's collecting, there's looping, and there's battling. And battling involves the creatures from Hot Wheels City, which is a YouTube video series about an evil scientist and his creatures. When you spell battle, it lights the necessary shot to then battle one of the creatures. And after battling the 4 creatures, you're able to then battle Draven himself.
Yes. I think I'm going to show everyone what is, because a lot of people ask, what is Hot Wheels City about it? Because we know the cars, we know the tracks, but we know that we know the loops, but we do not know. Most of us do not know the battles. Some with kids, yes, but I wouldn't say all of us.
So Hot Wheels City is a YouTube series, and it features these nemesis, these creatures, which are available in a lot of their toy sets now. So they'll have a really cool toy sets. The tracks tie together, and the cars will actually fly and crash into these creatures that can fall apart, and they're pretty cool toys. And you can show the original clip we started with, since that has some of the footage, but there we go.
Now it is. So is that the base of the animation? Some of that is inside the machine?
Yes. So what happened was we came with footage when we were trying to learn about the creatures, because that was something that was in some of the information they had given us. And we came across this series, and we asked if we could use this footage, because we just thought it was such fun, and we thought it would be a great way to bring the battles to life. And then we ended up using a lot of the footage for the car racing as well. And so we really used it in those 2 areas, is where we ended up using a lot of this footage, because it's really just fun stuff, and it works really well with the battles.
Back to the slideshow, and there we go. And then battles for the creatures that you just saw. Let me just turn these.
Right. So then the other big thing, one of the other big things is the race. You'll know shots have inserts in front of them with race positions, and you work your way from basically 12th place to 1st place, and then that triggers a pretty big multi-ball. So that's one of the other main objective areas. And then the next is car collecting. I'll let you talk about racing first. Okay, so racing, the 4 main shots in the game. So if you flip through some of the photos, you'll see track your race position. Those shots alternate through as you're trying to advance through the race. So you can see them there by the arrows. And that's one of the primary objectives in the game, in addition to the battling and the track building. And then card collecting is really brings you towards mystery awards. No, the race is separate from track building now. In a sense, when you build the track, you're now racing on that track. But that's different from the overall race, which is a race, and we also keep your time on the race. So people are competing to see who can complete the race the fastest.
Do you want to mention the three-dimensional?
Sure. Yeah, so that's the back panel is a lenticular image, which is a sort of has a 3D effect to it. And then when we do some of the lighting effects, it really brings it to life. So it kind of gives some extra depth to the back of the game. So something we really thought it helps kind of bring the game to life. You have the side art, and I'd love to at some point see if we could do lenticular side art. I think would be amazing. Not sure it's affordable to do. But we did it for the back panel. It really helps bring things to life.
I think the last thing I want to mention that I didn't find it anywhere. Actually, two things. One is the new lights, three RGB bulbs per light, and the integration of the shaker with the battles. Let me
recall ever seeing it. I think maybe it was done in the past on a couple of games where they had two to better light and arrow years ago. I don't think we've seen anything recently. I certainly don't think anybody's done three. So we have three in the four big arrows in the game, and then two in the smaller arrows. And we did it to better light the arrows, but it also lets us do some very cool lighting effects. We're able to kind of pulse it, which just brings more attention to it. And it just helps with light shows too. Having those extra LEDs when you're doing all the light shows helps make all the light shows look better. And I think the light shows in the game are pretty spectacular.
This picture is how crazy people are about Hot Wheels. This is a track. Isso aqui é uma pista com os dinossauros e uma collection. That's a collection just Mustangs. That's another collection. That's how you used to do shows before COVID. And now streaming, and now people receiving the machines. So sorry for interrupting you.
No. So people coming in and playing in our open house, that was really exciting for me to get to watch people experience the game, see their reaction to certain things. So that was great. And then, starting to see them getting unboxed and in people's homes. That's what it's all about. I mean, you create these games to hopefully create something that people are going to enjoy and smile when they play. Obviously, you can't tell these people have huge smiles on their face, but it's very rewarding to now see people getting to enjoy the game.
Yeah, I love this picture. I have kids, so I just love this picture.
Yeah, well, that little guy there on the right, he put up 1.2 billion points, which is pretty much as good as I have scored. So he's a heck of a little pinball player.
This picture, not sure if you saw this one.
No.
Nope. This is Jeffree Star.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm familiar with Jeffree.
Yeah, so Jeffree Star is...
I know he got... No?
Sorry, go ahead.
I said I did not know he had gotten his game yet. I know he was one of the first to order.
Yeah, it's there. Piratas Collector Edition, Wonka Collector Edition, aí é uma Hot Wheels. So there's room for a Hot Wheels Collection Edition.
There you go.
There you go. Streaming, everybody's streaming because nobody leaves home, so everybody's streaming. And then that's pretty much it, guys, on the chat.
All right, if there are any other questions from the stream, if not, just the things maybe we haven't hit on. There's a lot more in the game than the things we've talked about. We didn't talk about Epic. We didn't really talk about Redline Mania, Legend Multi-Ball.
We can do that.
So there's a tremendous amount of other stuff in the game. And, another time after people get to play it, we can get into more details on that. Like I said, our goal initially was to make it very approachable, and I think we've achieved that. But there's also really a lot going on in the game, and some tweaks as we learn things from some of the early players to make sure that the game really is challenging, fun, and entertaining.
So Josh, if you want to explain those highlights of the machines, Red Light Mania, because the last questions are coming. So after you go.
So Redline Mania is if you max out the tachometer, game kind of goes into a crazy mode where you're in Redline Mania, which is a 40-second unlimited ball multi-ball with 4 balls. And then at the end of that, the game then shifts to gear. So now your tachometer, which is driving all of your scoring, is now basically multiplied. So there's strategy around that in the gameplay. There's something called the turbo boost, which is lit at the kickback. You earn it through the pop bumpers. And when turbo is active, for a very short window of time, the tachometer is worth 10 times its normal value. So there's a lot of strategy around setting that up. And you only get to use that once per gear. If you light turbo a second time with gear, it'll just give you a boost of the tack, but it doesn't give you that massive scoring. So there's a lot of interesting strategy around when to use the boost, when to build it up, when to work your tack up, when to trigger the boost at the right time for that 10-second window to really leverage the scoring.
Okay, so let me just check if I got it right. First, you have to max out the tachometer, and then you get into the red light mania. And then the tachometer turns into shifting gears. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then...
So that's one thing. Turbo is a kind of a different thing, but they're related.
And then the turbo boost, you activate it on the bumpers and
at the kickback.
At the kickback, in theory. Okay.
What it points to is the importance of the tachometer. If you understand that and move it, you can get high scoring, and there's a lot of strategy around that. But you know what? If you just want to run the race and try and do it really fast, you don't have to worry about the tack. Or maybe you just want to battle creatures and try to get to Draven and not care about it. So there's lots of different ways you can step up to the game and play it differently. And that's one of the things that's really important to us. So when you have this in your home, there's a lot of variety, that it doesn't get boring quickly, that there's lots of different ways to play the game.
Can you play for progression instead of points? Because if I'm playing for progression, then the tachometer is not that important, or it shouldn't be.
The tachometer is everything. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what drives all scoring. Anything, it's always based on the tack. It's all multipliers of the tack in some form or another. If the one takeaway everybody listening on this call is when you're playing, if you want scoring, then you want to make sure that you're keeping your tack up and maybe not redlining it all the time. You got to find kind of that sweet spot where you're really maximizing your scoring.
Is that a color for every mode on the machine, like Rodini?
We do use the coloring in a similar way to the other games. In this case, battles are always sort of a hot pink. The race is orange. Loop Crash is red. Epic is a teal color. And track building is a blue. And car collecting is yellow. So especially when the arrows are being used for different things, we alternate the coloring. But then if it's alternating between pink and blue or pink and teal, then which shots are currently active on there. So as you know the game, which things you're striving for. And there's some important strategy around that. There's 2 multi-balls that you can start together, but you have to start them together. That's the only way to stack them. So understanding that the coloring can help in getting that timing right, that you get them both qualified and started together.
Is there any rock band pins on the pipeline?
Personally, I'm not a big fan of the rock band themes. Maybe if the right theme came along, I just feel that so much of it is wanting to tell a story and creating this world of. It just never registered with me with rock bands per se, but the right band came along that I like.
Guga-sama is asking, do you think it's gonna be American Pill bestseller to date?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt of that. I think between the price point and the theme and the way the game shoots, the flow of it, I think the entertainment value, I think it'll do well on location when people play it. It's a game that kind of makes you feel good and you smile. And I have no doubt it'll be our biggest seller.
Is there a final wizard mode,
yes.
Machina? And then the game ends or restarts again?
The game, it continues on. The game continues on past Legend Multi-Ball. And one of the things we try to do here with the wizard mode, I'd say it's a little more attainable at factory settings. Houdini was way too tough at factory settings. Oktoberfest, I think it's about right, but it's a long journey in Oktoberfest. So that was a little bit of a shorter journey to get to Legend Multi-Ball. You still have to get through an awful lot, but we want to make sure it was a little more attainable, in the sense of think Final Frontier versus Valinor. Okay, so that was one of the other things we wanted to get, but it's called Legend Multi-Ball is the final mode, is the wizard.
So
mode.
Legend Multi-Ball is more related to Destroy the Ring than to Valinor. No.
Yes.
Kind of.
Yeah, I think it's sort of in between there, because I always consider, I think it's a little going to be harder to get to than Destroy the Ring, but I would say it's somewhat similar.
Okay. How American Pinball differentiate from other manufacturers, and how you're going to position against those manufacturers, not against those, but how you're going to position in the marketplace with those big manufacturers and also the new entries. What's the value that American Pinball is going to bring to the market compared to what already exists, and how you're going to position? Easy question.
I think what we've seen with our games is that we're producing a very high quality game with a high value product. We're giving you a premium game at a lower price than other people, and now here with Hot Wheels, I think we're trying to even get to a lower price point to make that more appealing to people. So our goal is a game with high quality, with the things that matter most in the game at a price that you really feel like you're getting value for your dollar. And I think we've done pretty well with that. I think our quality is pretty solid. I think our gameplay is great. Hopefully, it's nice to hear people who continue to buy our machines obviously feel that we're giving them something for their hard-earned money.
Well, I think that's pretty much it. Just want to thank you very much. I think even though we do not have the machine right here with us, but we will very soon, I think we try at our best to make it more interactive, to show the new factor, to show the new machine, to show people's reaction to the machines, talk to you, your excitement about the Hot Wheels, how the launch uptakes it's going. So just want to thank you for your time, for everything.
Thanks for having me on, and after you've had a chance to get to play the game, we'll talk some more.
Yeah, for sure we will. So thank you very much, and obrigado a todo mundo. You have to say obrigado.
Obrigado.
Então,